welcome to your Friday, July 23rd edition of the SVG-TV News. I'm Khalil Cato with the details. President of the Caribbean Central Bank, Dr. Hyginus Jean Leon, in his first official visit to St. Vincent and the Grenadines since his appointment, said his physical presence here signals the bank's commitment to the island, especially in the aftermath of the explosive eruptions of the La Soufrière volcano. He was at the time addressing a news conference hosted by Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves at Cabinet Room. Dr. Leon is currently on his first trip through the Eastern Caribbean, having made his first official visit to Guyana last week since taking office on May 7th of this year.
This is a meeting for me about showing our solidarity, our support at the CDB with the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I thought a face-to-face physical visit was an important way of signaling. Not only do we empathize and feel for all that has happened recently in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, but to equally indicate that the support, the full support of CDB is real. And we want to underline that reality of that support by physically coming to visit, to see firsthand where St. Vincent is now, to meet with not only the Prime Minister but members of his cabinet, and to start an engagement on how we can strengthen the bonds that he mentioned from the beginning of the bank onwards to a stronger St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
In sharing the CDB's involvement in SVG's volcano recovery, Dr. Leon said the bank is providing the island with a $5 million soft loan to assist with the humanitarian efforts on the ground. The soft loan comes after an initial commitment of $300,000 as part of an emergency assistance grant shortly after the volcano went into the explosive phase.
CDB immediately agreed to provide $300,000. The second is the immediate response loan of $5 million that PM spoke about that we have just signed. We're in the final stages. We have had signatures now, and it's just a matter of getting designated signatories to effect it. But in principle, we have $5.3 million for immediate emergency reaction response made available, US dollars, by the way, to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. We'll do a symbolic exchange of documents on this, but we can think of this as a closed deal, money that is immediately available to help the situation in St. Vincent.
The CDB president said there is an additional $200,000 available to SVG through the IDB for technical assistance.
Equally, I should mention there that there is also a 200,000, not million, 200,000 technical assistance grant also provided by the IDB. That is also part of this emergency response to help in the process of managing that whole disaster response in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So that those three together would fall under that banner I called emergency volcano eruption response that we discussed.
Dr. Leon also outlined the outcomes of discussions held with the Prime Minister and the other cabinet members as the CDB seeks to improve the relationship between the government and the bank.
The third thing we did was to equally look, as the PM said, at the portfolio. And what exactly did that mean? And let me probably announce first the punchline that came out of our discussions is, one, we are committed to, and when I say we, the bank is committed to work with the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines with a view to accelerating, and I want to underline accelerating disbursements and on all existing projects that we have that can help move the reaction, the response we have to not only the eruption, but also COVID in the background to help move St. Vincent and the Grenadines faster out of where we are to a better place as soon as we possibly can.
Meanwhile, Prime Minister Gonzalez noted that as of September last year, SVG owed the bank roughly $330 million plus. He outlined several of the projects being funded by the CDB on island, including the port modernization project and the rebuilding of the Sandy Bay Primary School under the School Improvement Project.
As of September, the end of September last year, we owed the CDB about $330 million. Really low-cost money, very good terms. But there's some big projects which we haven't drawn down on yet. The big one, nearly $40 million, the project out at Sandy Bay, the Sea Defense project. Nearly $40 million also in relation to 9 schools, 9 primary and secondary schools we have to repair substantially. And in the case of the one up in Sandy Bay, we have to rebuild. The other 9, as I recall them, 2 in Barley and Carapan and Girls High School and Grammar School and Thomas Saunders and Community High School in Beckway. In fact, you would see that we're building Thomas Saunders a temporary school out at Arnesville. That's to house Thomas Saunders, because we know the work to be done on Thomas Saunders, we can't do the work while we are inside of the school.
The CDB president, on the other hand, said they are working to fast-track the disbursement of funds for the projects the bank is involved with here in SVG.
Improvement project, PM, you mentioned. PM has also said he'd like to reopen schools in October. And so we would like to move on this as quickly as we can to facilitate this to the extent that we already have a project and a loan in place to work on that. There's the Basic Needs Trust Fund projects that PM also spoke about. We just finished one cycle, which we call BNTF 9, and the new cycle starting BNTF 10. And this is mostly focused on improving livelihoods in communities. And I think now, given the eruption, given the COVID issues, given where we are in terms of the hurricane season about to start, we are going to look at how we can accelerate that. If you want front load, fast track, as much as is possible to help get even more benefit to people in that particular light.
Dr. Leon also shared that the port modernization project in Rose Place is possibly the CDB's second largest project at the moment, which he deemed as transformative for SVG's economy.
This project is potentially transformative for the economy of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And the quicker we can get it going, and it will take a good maybe 3 years in terms of building, but the quicker we can get it started and moving, I think the quicker we will be towards realizing the benefits of that particular project. When the port is there, you will have access, not just from the marine side, inter-island, the port facilities, but it will also link to not only commerce and agriculture and tourism and other areas in the entire space that our development trust for St. Vincent, as we discuss with the government how best we can work with them, has to see that port project as an anchor, and from which the tentacles, the different elements will actually be linked in, so that you can build on the benefits of that big port project or port modernization project to help spur development across the entire sector.
He also highlighted the IDB's commitment to assisting various health projects in the region, whether procuring vaccines or building infrastructure. He said that he noted that a line of credit has been established for this cause. Seismic activity at the La Soufrière volcano continues to decline. This is according to lead scientist monitoring the volcano, Dr. Urosula Joseph, who was providing an update on NBC Radio this morning.
There's a whole different scenario where people will have to prepare themselves for periodically being put possibly maroon. And when I say maroon, I mean just temporarily cut off from public, access to roadway to be able to get in and out. And until the authorities clear these areas when there is heavy rainfall. So, coping strategies like, having enough supplies at home that might last you for a few days until you can get out. Knowing that if there's rainfall expected or if you see the rain start to come, you stay away from river valleys. Of course, there will be no rebuilding in certain areas once.
The lead scientist spoke on her visit to North Windward in the red zone on Wednesday. She stressed on the dangers and new coping strategies which persons who will be reoccupying these areas will have to adjust to.
And of course, certainly when the rains start to fall, to stay away from the river valleys and to try not to cross these areas. And if, depending on where you are, you may have to seek, higher ground. If you are outdoors and see something, if you happen to be outdoors and see mud flows coming down the valleys, and you don't stick around on the riverbeds, you go to higher ground. But certainly people should, because the rains are expected, really and truly, the best thing is to stay away from the river valleys and attempting to cross these areas when the rainfall is expected.
Dr. Joseph further encouraged persons who will be moving back to the red zone, especially those living near riverbanks, to be careful of lahars or mud flows, which she said will continue for some time. Minister of Health, Wellness and the Environment Sinclair Prince said as of today, July 23rd, only fully vaccinated taxi drivers can operate at the Argyle International Airport. On WeFM yesterday, Minister Prince outlined the number of taxi drivers on mainland St. Vincent and Beckway in the Grenadines who have been vaccinated, noting that visitors should not take taxis with unvaccinated drivers.
July 23rd, 2021, only fully vaccinated taxi drivers can operate at the AIA. 350 total registered authorized taxi drivers in SVG, 31 that's on mainland, and 31 fully vaccinated taxi drivers on, that should be 31, I get it mixed up here. Of the 350, we have 31 fully vaccinated on St. Vincent, and we have 13 fully vaccinated on Beckway. And these are the two main destinations for cruise ships that we have. We're not encouraging visitors to take them. That's on mainland St. Vincent I'm talking about, and also on Beckway, we have already tabulated that. And when the cruise ships come, the drivers will have to be vaccinated. Otherwise, they'll have to go elsewhere and ply their trade. But we're encouraging them. We're encouraging them, please take the vaccine.
Minister Prince said the measure is part of the new protocols for cruise ships as well as arriving passengers to SVG by air.
The entry protocols for arriving cruise travelers, the crew or passenger must arrive with a negative PCR test done 24 to 48 hours prior to boarding the ship, must submit the cruise manifest maritime declaration of health and negative PCR results at least 24 hours prior to arrival. And passengers and crew arriving by air to join the cruise will be subjected to protocols for entry by air. When they come off the ship, they go directly to a taxi with a vaccinated driver. The tour guide or whoever the agent is will have to be vaccinated also. And they go, let's say, to gardens. The gardens will be closed for other people, other traffic. And they do what they have to do there, then they go back in the taxi and back to the cruise ship. Absolutely, because you don't know what is coming in. This is ready to protect people, protect Vincentians. So people can't say, well, we close gardens for, we want to go gardens. Yeah, we close it for your protection.
The health minister used the opportunity to encourage all taxi drivers and nationals to get vaccinated. He said that at the end of this month, 21,000 doses of the AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine are expected to expire. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves said there are two ways of meeting the target of herd immunity in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, which are for persons to get vaccinated or contract COVID. On radio today, the PM again emphasized the need for vaccines to be taken, which he said is the safest way of reaching herd immunity.
There are two ways to deal with this, to get population immunity.
70% and over of the population take the COVID vaccine, or 70% and over get COVID. But if 70% of the population over get COVID, you're going to have a lot of people dying and a lot of people in the hospital. But the medical services would be affected terribly. And those who think they're young and strong and could get it and shake it off, they mistake because you have long COVID. Right. Tighten the muscles, harden the muscles around the heart, and give you problems with your lungs, scarring of the lungs. Mm-hmm. So the best thing to do, the safest thing to do, is to take the COVID vaccine.
The Minister of Health has said that the new target date for herd immunity in SVG is April 2022. To date, close to 26,000 people have been vaccinated, with just under 10,000 fully vaccinated. And there are 3 new positive COVID-19 cases reported from 146 samples processed on Tuesday, resulting in a positivity rate of 2.1%. 2 new positive cases were reported from 187 cases processed on Wednesday, resulting in a positivity rate of 1.1%. The Health Services Subcommittee said both cases identified on Wednesday are imported cases from the United Kingdom. 1 new recovery was noted over the reporting period. 60 cases are currently active and 12 persons with COVID-19 have died. 2,271 cases of COVID-19 and 2,199 recoveries have been recorded in SVG since March 2020. The health authorities say persons who persist in incorrect or no mask use, remain unvaccinated, and participate in mass gatherings will continue to be at risk for being infected and spreading COVID-19, and that to reduce the spread of the virus in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, compliance with the protocols, including the effective use of masks, physical distancing, and the evidence-based recommendations to be vaccinated with the available vaccines is strongly recommended. With 4 days left before grade 6 students across the island take the 2021 Caribbean Primary Exit Assessment, the CPEA, Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves used the opportunity on radio this morning to encourage students to remain calm and stay focused. He also asked that parents play their part in ensuring their children are fully prepared for the exams, which are being held under challenging circumstances.
I want to urge the parents of the children, make sure that they're ready for Tuesday and Wednesday next week for the CPEA. Mm-hmm. I want those children to know that they're very special to us. Don't panic or anything. Just go and do your best. You don't get anxious. Don't, just, at that age you're cool, and, just do your work.
There are some students from the red zone who will be sitting the CPEA this year while still in shelters, as they were displaced by the explosive eruption of La Soufrière. For students from Chateaubelair and Fitzhughes, special arrangements are being made for their return after the exam, as the official date given for residents there to return to these communities is today.
We have invested in you, your family, and the state. We have invested in you already. You had early childhood education from 3 to 5. You have had now 7 years from 5 to 11 plus.
Prime Minister Gonzalez said that government will continue to support and provide the necessary tools for all students up to tertiary level.
We have invested in you, your family, and the state. We have invested in you already. You had early childhood education from 3 to 5. You have had now 7 years from 5 to 11 plus of primary education. And we will provide for you again for 5 years of secondary education for you to do your CXCs, and a further 2 years at community college for you to do your associate degree or your CAPE. And then after that, we have provision for you to go to university and for you to get a profession.
and to develop your God-given abilities and skills in whatever area you want to do.
Meanwhile, Education Minister Curtis King urged the CPEA students to go into the exam room with a great level of confidence, noting that they should be well prepared for the exam.
When you get there, and please do so at least half an hour before the scheduled start of your exams. Once you get to the exam rooms, observe all the instructions that would be provided. Secondly, and very importantly, relax, do not panic. Read your question paper very carefully, take your time, and make sure you put your best effort forward. Let me remind you that every single student who sits this exam will be placed at a secondary school. But this exam is very important for another purpose. That is to ensure that by your performance, you get the school of your choice.
Minister King said that despite the challenges facing the country, he knows that the students are very resilient and will do well at the exam.
And I know for many of you, it is a very trying time. You are naturally nervous, some of you, while others are in great anticipation of this long-awaited examination. Well, I, too, am very happy that we are at this stage. We have come through many challenges, but now, by being here, by arriving thus far, we are demonstrating our resilience. We are demonstrating that we have conquered the challenges, and we are now ready to embark on this little challenge that remains ahead of us. And I do hope at the end of the day, you would feel happy that you would have put in a great effort, and you would be looking forward to moving on to your next stage in your educational journey.
The Ministry of Education has stated that 9,895 students have registered to sit the CPEA 2021.